Welcome back, and if you're joining us right now, it is KTN Scoreline, where we always do it the sporty way. For the better part of the show, we have been speaking about what has been happening in the country, but we took a different gear altogether when Asif Karim joined me in studio, and we're discussing about what is happening actually in the world of sports here in the country, and we will also cross borders, because I think there are some countries which were doing bad, and now they are better than Kenya when it comes to sports. But he is a gentleman who has actually played the sports for quite a number of years. But before we continue with the discussion, let me ask him to watch this, and he will tell us what exactly does he remember about this clip.
That's got to be out close. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well bowled.
Like that, it's gone. That's gone again. 3 wickets for Asif Karim.
Well. What's happening here? 18 overs, 117 for 5, and it's been brilliant bowling by Asif Karim, 39 years old.
What do you remember? A very, very instrumental moment, and I know there is a lot of memory when it comes to that day.
Well, that's a very, very special and a nostalgic memory that you brought back to me. This was the 2003 World Cup. This was a match against the world champions Australia, and regarded as the finest one-day team Australia has ever had. We lost the match against them, but the performance that the Kenya team had overall in the tournament, and the buzz that was created internationally, and for me was very special, because I got man of the match despite losing against the world champions. And so that's a moment that, of course, can never be forgotten. And many times when people talk about 2003 World Cup, this moment is always comes up.
And from this point as well, I'll ask you then, what is not happening, or what is happening with cricket, because we were there, now we're nowhere?
Well, as I said, unfortunately, there were so many lapses, if I would call. When success came into the team, you had a lot of people who wanted to come and join in the success, which I don't have a problem with. But you must have the competency and the skills to look at developing the sport, not your personal interest. And this is where I think we had a problem, one of the problems. The second problem we had is that our development structure, because the players that played there, they are going to phase out with time, because a sportsman life is a certain number of years. What's coming through? So we had a very weak development structure, because in any sport, it's very important that your development structures are in place, from the under 11s to the under 13s to the under 15s. So that becomes your feeding program, and your domestic competition must be very strong. This we lacked. Why? Because we had leaders and people in charge who really, I don't think, were really interested in the sport. They were more interested in their own protection and to do what I call nepotism within the system. And the results are very clear of where we are today.
What needs to be done, or what is the main hurdle that is making cricket not be where it used to be when you guys were the gurus, not only in the country, but almost across the globe?
Well, first, I think it's important, which fortunately now the stakeholders, which are the clubs, the cricket clubs, have decided they are fed up with the system. They have created their own tournaments. They now have sponsors when the association could not get sponsors. Now, private people are organizing a cricket tournament, which I think is the ultimate embarrassment for a provincial body or the national body. That you have got private people who are organizing a tournament that's very, very successful. They're getting the money, they're getting the support, and tomorrow is a huge finals at Nairobi Gymkhana between Swami Bapa and Sarali Club, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of following there. So that is a big problem. The second problem is that we need to accept that we are on ground zero. And the people who have brought us to that system must be honest to themselves, because if they say that they are sincere, then they must be honest to themselves to say that they have tried, unfortunately they have failed. The best thing is to step aside. The issue they're talking about right now is to do a constitutional. Now, the people who are the problematic guys are part of creating the constitution. For sure, how is that going to work? It cannot work. The only solution that I strongly believe in is that they all need to go home, and we need to have a caretaker committee appointed immediately with fresh people who are given a reasonable mandate to start reorganizing where cricket needs to go.
Are these issues that have already been raised, or are there some people who are trying to say that things are not going the proper way and things need to take a U-turn?
Absolutely. As I said, right now, their private clubs have given up on the national team and the national body and the association. They are creating their own tournaments. But I'm so disappointed also with the ministry, because I don't think they are on top. Either they are being hoodwinked by the people in charge, they are just misleading the whole system. And it's time that the ministry must wake up. They must act. They cannot give lip services the way this has been going on. So it's very important that what I call a passive resistance, which is very important to get rid of the people who have done great harm. You cannot be in the system for 20 years and you take a system that was doing well and you have crumbled it up to the ground floor.
Is there any positive from where you're sitting or standing? Are you seeing any positives in cricket in the country at the moment?
Yes, we have a lot of youngsters. And I feel sorry for them because, as I said, a sportsman's life is very limited. Now, if he misses that period, when is he going to play? And today, sports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You look at all the sports in the world, whether you take athletics, whether you take football, whether you take cricket, it's huge money. So we can create good jobs. A job creation can take place. The youths who are unemployed can be involved into the cricket. So yes, there are a lot of youngsters, and I think it is important that we must do justice to these youngsters so that they are motivated and bring cricket back to where it belongs, at the high.
I know when you're talking about cricket, you're talking from experience. You have been there, you've played it. Let's talk about tennis. What is happening in tennis? Because we've seen we have some young lads in tennis who are coming up at the same time. They're trying as much as possible to be the big stars, but we're starting young. We don't have quite a number of tennis players that will say these are a force to reckon with in the world of tennis in the country.
You know, tennis also has had a rich history in this country, from the 1950s to, I would say, up to 1995, late. And of course, the biggest player we had was Paul Wekesa.
And your family also was a very, very instrumental when it came to...
Thank you. Yeah, they were part of the history that tennis has been in this country. But towards the end of the century, our standards went low for various reasons. And now, but I must give full compliments to the administration in tennis. They are making a lot of effort. There are a lot of activities going on. There are a lot of youngsters. The Davis Cup team has done very well. So they are building it up. But I would also appeal to them that they need to take tennis to all the counties. They need to encourage it at school level, which efforts are being made, but I think a little bit more effort needs to be made. But I think they're in the right direction. They've come back, and I'm hoping that we can produce also the big names that we have, like Novak. We need a big name to come in tennis at international level for it to erupt. And that's what happened with people like Boris Becker. When he came into the tennis, the German tennis went up. Bjorn Borg in the 70s and 80s, when he came into Wimbledon winning, the tennis went very, very high in Sweden. So we really need a big name to come in.
Let's have this on full screen for a little bit. Tell me, when you see these images and maybe some of the cuttings that you'll be seeing here, what are some of the memories that it brings to you, seeing maybe your father, your siblings, all saying that they are trying as much as possible to star in the world of sports, tennis to be specific? Well,
you know, when you see all these photographs, of course, it gives you a lot of wonderful memories because, you know, as I said, we were eating, sleeping and drinking sports, you know, in those youth days. And I'm hoping that the youths can get inspired
like
to go
father,
back into
like
this.
son.
Yeah, I mean, that was a special moment. I had won my first tournament, it's the senior tournament at the age of 16. And that's my father there, you know, winning his 25th tournament. That's my elder brother. So tennis was all, I regard tennis as a royal sport. It's a beautiful sport. It's an individual sport. Cricket is a team sport. So each one was different in its own way. You know, cricket helped me a lot to deal with different scenarios because you have different players with different psyche. And as a leader, it was important to bring the best out of everybody.
It never comes easy to see a father playing in a final, a national final for that matter, together with his son.
Well, that was against my elder brother. My dad was playing his 25th tournament in 1977, And I don't know where in the world you can have a father playing his son to win his 25th tournament. So that was something very special and very unique.
Special and unique. For you, you played cricket. You also played tennis.
Yes.
How was it balancing cricket and tennis in your life?
Well, it was good, and I was managing to balance until 1992, when a defining moment happened on that day, where I was playing the Kenya Open tennis finals.
We're talking about the clash of the sports there.
Yeah, there's a tennis finals in 1992, and that same very day I'm captaining my club to play the semi-finals against Aga Khan Club. And of course, on hindsight, I mean, I was trying to be a hero, but I became a zero on that day because I was trying to balance everything, trying to go and go to the cricket ground, go to tennis, and everything faltered. So that became a defining moment for me then, and also Kenya was going into international cricket. So I then decided, let me focus on my cricket now that we are going to a higher level.
There was a lot of talks in the build-up of that. A winner may skip open final because
correct.
you'd already qualified for the final.
Correct.
And you were to meet Odor in the final of that match you're talking about.
And Norbert Odor and myself used to have a very strong rivalry, and of course only on the court. And we had some memorable matches, and of course you can see that headline that I couldn't play one of the finals in the doubles in the evening because I was still in the cricket. So it really, but do I miss tennis? I definitely do miss tennis.
Why did you decide now? Because I know it was a clash in 1992, February to be specific. A lot is happening. Yeah. You need to represent the country in tennis. You need to represent the country in cricket, but you had to make the choice. Well, that choice was to leave tennis.
Correct. And in fact, that's something that always bothers me because my mom hardly speaks. But she said, why did you give up tennis? You know, and so that statement always comes to my mind. And to be honest, at that moment, that was the best decision that I felt. I do not regret the decision because Kenyan cricket went to the highest. Tennis helped me get a 4-year scholarship to America. I played at the highest level in America. Played for the country in the Davis Cup and the President's Cup in Nigeria. But then cricket took me to the World Cup. So each one had its own strength, and I have really no deep regrets, but I really did miss tennis.
Let's talk about now the general state of sports in the country, and I'll be specific about athletics. We have issues to do with doping, quite a number of issues. As a former athlete, still positively and also active in sports, what's your general assessment in regards to do with sports and doping?
Well, you know, that's a very serious issue right now, and unfortunately, Kenyans over the years have been victims or have also messed themselves up, and they are paying the price for it. There is no way now that any athlete, be it Kenyan or anywhere in the world, can get away with doping. The anti-doping are very strong. They have a very strong system to catch people. But more importantly, the athletes must understand that while you are trying to enhance your performance with doping, you are also harming your own body. Because remember, there are a lot of side effects. Your kidneys are affected, you know, and so many other effects are there. And then once you get caught up with that, you are actually suspended for a very long time, and then you lose out on the whole thing. So it's important that as the ministry or as every discipline in this country, be it athletics, be it football, be it cricket, that we must educate our youngsters, we must educate our sport. But remember, they are not aware of certain things. And sometimes they can be misled, or sometimes innocently they make a mistake. Those things also do happen. So I think it's important that a training session is given regularly, talks are given regularly to our national players on how we need to be careful for such things, because there are times that also could be sabotage. And that has also happened. I'm aware of one or two cases on that matter. But of course, it's not in public domain. So it's very important that we need to continue educating our sports people.
Are we doing enough to educate them? Because the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya is there. They're trying. Different federations also have a huge responsibility to play. But of key importance is the athletes. They also have a very, very critical role to play.
Well, yeah, as I said, it's a collective responsibility. I don't think it's, of course, the main responsibility lies with the athlete himself. But it's important that the association and the system and that's why there is a Ministry of Sports. What are they doing? Those are the areas that they need to come up. You have the National Olympic Committee. They need to step up. So it's a collective responsibility where every stakeholder in this country in sports must take responsibility to ensure that we up the game, not only in doping, but in every aspect of sports.
A lot of people always say that every sportsman and women who are actively involved in sports, they always love football. Football. I know that we were in the Africa Cup of Nations the other day. The team is back in the country. We are trying to qualify in Africa Cup of Nations again. There has been a lot of sideshows in regards to do with finances. Are we heading the right way when it comes to football in Kenya?
Well, let me make a blanket statement. We are heading nowhere as far as sports in this country is concerned. Not only football, but you've asked me on football. Football is a very passionate sport for Kenya. If you today have a game at Nyayo Stadium, irrespective, you will get a huge crowd. It's a national sport. I mean, I remember as youngsters when Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards were playing, you know, there was a huge talk the entire month that this game is coming up and the crowds were there. We remember the days of Joe Kadenge, late Joe Kadenge, Mahmoud Abbas. You know, those were people who played for the passion of the sport. We need to instill back to our sports people that they must play for the passion of sports and then look for money instead of wanting money to play sports. I think it's important. They need to flip it over. We need to have the passion of playing sports. You must be hungry to play sports. And it is the ultimate honor and desire for every sportsman to play for his country. And that should be the fundamental goal. And that can only happen if we create that culture. We need to, I mean, these are youngsters. You know, they see the stars on television, people like Ronaldo, you know, driving 101 cars. I mean, he'll decide which car he wants to drive today, or which house he wants to stay in, or have his own private jet. So the youngster is looking at that as the yardstick. But I think the yardstick needs to look at how you can enhance the flag of your country. That needs to be instilled, and that can only be instilled with education, continuous counseling, continuous discussion, and create a good platform. Then, that if you are successful, money will follow you. But when you have money, it's not necessary that you are successful. And there are many examples. We have seen many sportsmen who have made money, but they have come out in disgrace. But if you are successful and you're carrying the path correctly, money will look for you. You don't have to look for money. So I think that process is something that is, I call it work in progress. It's not a one-day event. It's something that needs to be inculcated as we grow in the sports industry.
You know, you're talking about sports is going nowhere in this country, and I know that one will worry quite a number of people who are watching. What should be the turning process?
And I'm going to make a very candid statement here. I strongly maintain that statement, and I'm hoping His Excellency, the President, is listening to this. I think we need a complete overhaul in the Ministry of Sports. The first thing we need to do is to have a Ministry of Sports on its own. You cannot have a Ministry of Culture, Heritage, and what I call a small word called sports at the end. Sports today, as I said, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's one of the agenda of His Excellency where he wants to have health as an important subject. One of his agendas, Agenda 4, I think, is on employment for the youths. Well, what better and an easier formula than to encourage sports, because you are going to take care of your health. Automatically, the nation will be much healthier. And you are going to create jobs for the youths. And I guarantee that if we put the structures in place, we can create hundreds and thousands of jobs. So first, I think we need to create a Ministry of Sports. But more importantly...
Not sports, arts and culture.
Definitely not. I've said it in my columns many times. I've said it in many forums that I've been given an opportunity to speak. And I'm hoping that this forum today will take it to that level. So we need a Ministry of Sports on its own. And we need a minister or a lady who is fully conversant with international sports and must have passion, or could have played at that international level to understand the psyche of a sports person. You cannot have politicians leading sports. We have a constitution that says technocrats must lead, the CS must be a technocrat. Well, if you are heading Ministry of Sports, then in my limited understanding, a technocrat is somebody who is specialized in that field. So we need to spend some time in identifying who we need to place in that position. The other problem I'm seeing is that there is a competition and threat or feeling insecure between the ministry, the CS, and the PS. You see there is a conflict. They are not on the same page.
I spoke with the PS 2 weeks ago. He said they're in the same page.
Well, it's one thing to talk, it's another thing to practice. They are not on the same page. Why? Because it's again politically appointments. So unless you have the CS and the PS on the same page, the CS is the boss. The CS must be given a free hand to make a team, whether it's the PS, whether it's the team maker in the office, whether it's the messenger or the secretary. You must create a proper corporate business structure because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So we cannot work on our whims. If you want sports to flourish, I mean, Kenyans have done proud to this country for over 50 years. I give a simple example. When the Kenyans go to Olympics or Commonwealth Games, we really don't talk about will Kenya get gold. The statement would be, how many goals will they win this year?
Yes.
I mean, look at the marathon performances. Look at what Eliud Kipchoge has done. Look, every week, Kenyans are dominating.
Let me just cut you a little bit and ask you about the sports fund.
Yeah.
What is the future of this fund, and are we utilizing it in a proper way? Because we've listened and had some squabbles, other federations saying we want this, we want this, we want this. But can also these federations do better and at least have their own source of monies so that it does not become they're fighting for that little that is there?
Excellent point. And the classic example here is cricket. During the peak days of up to the 2003, where Kenya was just a number coming up, it was the association who raised the money. The first responsibility lies with the association. We cannot keep on crying to the government every minute for giving you the money. That's your supplement. Now that the fund has been created, I think that's wonderful. But there are mixed reports coming out. There is no transparency, there is no clarity of how much money has been raised, where the money is going, and if it is government money, then it is only fair that it is put on public domain. If the money is for the stakeholders, which are the sports people, then it is very important.
Who do you think needs to be the custodian of these monies?
The custodian should be the ministry. But that can only take place if you have the right people in that organizations who are accountable. The Rio Olympic is a classic example, where money, there was so much question mark, but the thing was delayed even when evidence was clear. It was unleashed at the end is when now the issues are going on. But right now, if you ask me what's the update, I have no idea what has happened to that issue. So we are very good at dramatizing. We are very good at bringing a subject and then it has a natural death. And that's not only in sports, it's generally in politics. So I think we need to divorce the politics from sports and give the sports the due recognition, because I regard our sports people as the unsung heroes of this country. And they need to be given all the due respect. I mean, look at cases of the people who have done wonders to this country, the sports people. Some of the people, if you see their plight, I mean, you've been playing World Cup. I mean, there are cricketers who are right now on the road, who are struggling to survive. Here is the players who have brought pride and honor to this country. Where is the system? Where is the system? How long are we going to keep talking about it? Where is the action? I'm hearing every time this matter. Rose Tatamuya is our brand ambassador to the KISS Festival. I give her a lot of compliments. With her challenges, she is fighting for the sports people. Why should she be struggling and fighting? She needs to be supported of what she is doing. I'm giving an example. So what I'm saying is that unless we have people who are running this sports with the passion and the emotion and have played at the highest level, because it's not very easy. I'll give you an example of cricket. In the world, there are well over 100 or 200,000 cricketers playing. But there are only 300 to 400 cricketers in the world that have played World Cup. And Kenya has played 5 World Cups. And I can say approximately 30 to 40 Kenyans have played in the World Cup of that number. So that's a unique situation.
A unique situation, and also a very important situation. Sports needs some quick fix, and we have people who literally can't do that. We will take a short commercial break, but when we come back, there is a documentary that I don't know if majority of you has been able to watch about the Karim's sporting dynasty. We will just have a little bit of preview of the same. At the same time, we will talk about different sports altogether, and we also have a bigger conversation about the Kenya International Sports Festival. What exactly is happening and what should we expect?